Hey, what's up? Hello. If you are new here, my name is Kayla and you are watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. Today's video is going to be our June reading wrap up. For the month of June, I read a total of 6 books. That is the most books I have read in a month so far this year. You guys know, if you've been around my channel for a little while, we had some transitions happen. So the amount of books that I have been able to read in a month's time has dwindled dramatically. But this month, I feel like it's starting to tick back up, and I have no one to thank for that except audiobooks. I have been reading a lot of audiobooks. If you're following me over on Instagram, which if you're not, I will leave my link down below, but it's the same name as my YouTube name, Kayla's Bookish Vibes. You should check me out over there because I've been making some little reels showing how I get my reading done now as a mom to 3. It's a struggle, but the audiobooks have been saving your girl. So we have quite a few audiobooks. I do own a few books physically, so we'll quickly go through the 6 books that I read for the month of June. My thoughts, my star ratings, you guys know how this goes. The first book we're going to talk about is The Filling Station by Vanessa Miller. This is the second book that I have read by this author, and I really enjoyed it. The first book was The American Queen, and I read that one towards the end of last year, or was it the beginning of this year? I can't remember. It's all blending together, but I enjoyed both of those books. I will say, this being the second book, I can kind of tell the writing style that Vanessa Miller has, and she writes Christian fiction. So if that matters to you, go into it knowing that. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't think I realized that when I picked up both of her books, and I think you can really tell in this one, it really leans more towards the faith. There's a lot of faith-based things discussed in this book, but I love that about her writing because she often writes her characters as they struggle with their faith, and I love how she shows the humanity of that. Now, this book we are following 2 sisters as they survive the Tulsa Race Massacre that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That takes place, like the bombing of Black Wall Street takes place at the very beginning of the book, and then we're following them as they literally have to run for their lives, and they end up at the filling station, which is a gas station, but more than that, it's like a safe haven for them as they're fleeing from this horrible situation. And it's not just a safe haven for them, but for Black people in general. I love how it talks about sundown towns and how it was not safe for Black people to travel at nighttime in a lot of cities or a lot of towns, and how these places such as the filling station were necessary for their survival. I enjoyed this book. 3.5 stars. Highly recommend if you're into historical fiction. Even if you don't read a lot of historical fiction, I think you will really enjoy Vanessa Miller's style of writing historical fiction. So I would definitely pick this one up. The next book that I own physically, and you guys know we've read this on the channel. I did an entire reading vlog on this book, Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars, rounded up to a 4 because it's Kennedy Ryan. I feel like Kennedy Ryan has her own way of writing romances, and I absolutely adore it. I love how she's able to incorporate real life, more serious topics into her romances. Her thumbprint is very evident when it comes to that, and you can see it very clearly in this book. I enjoyed watching Hendrix navigate how she was going to care for her mother. I got to see how Hendrix dealt with it and like her emotions, and I could just relate to it in that way. I also really enjoyed the social commentary that was in this book. I really wish we would have gotten a little bit more of that. I feel like it was kind of just tacked on at the end, and that really intrigued me. I wish it would have been like a common thread that was used throughout the entire novel. But alas, it wasn't. Why this wasn't a 4 for me, I just didn't necessarily like the direction that Kennedy Ryan went for Hendrix's story. If you want to know more about how I feel about that, you'll have to check out the vlog. I will leave it linked down for you below. I feel like I have talked so much about this book. I did really enjoy my reading experience though. I enjoyed going back and forth with you all in the comments about this book here on YouTube, also over on Instagram. I enjoyed talking about this book with Brendy's book club. She had like a virtual book club meeting for this book. I enjoyed that as well. I enjoyed my time with this book. I just didn't necessarily enjoy the storyline that Kennedy went with. I read this physically. This was like one of the few books that I read physically this month. The next book that we read was Alice Feeney's Beautiful Ugly. I have a few Alice Feeney's books on my shelf, but I have never read from her. This is her newest release, and it's my first time reading from her. This was my book of the month pick. I don't remember which month I picked it, but I've been trying to get through my book of the month picks because I just keep, like, I'm part of the subscription, but I find that I'm actually not reading the books. So I paused my subscription so that I can catch up and read all the books that I've been picking. This is a very atmospheric thriller, and I enjoyed my time with it. I read it on audio, and I do recommend the audio book. It's not super overproduced, but there is a few like special effects that they added that I think leads to the creepy, spooky atmosphere. So in this book, we are following an author who is on the phone with his wife But while he is on the phone with her, an accident occurs. Something happens and she has to get off of the phone. The phone line actually drops and she's never to be heard from again. She's missing and presumed dead by many. And that's not a spoiler. That happens literally like within the first few pages of this book. And then we fast forward to maybe a year later and he is trying to write another novel. He's a writer, he's an author. He has to write in order to provide for himself. So he's trying to write another book, only he can't write because he's so lovesick over his wife. He's still mourning the loss of his wife. And so he's decided he's going to go to this island to try and get away, get his mind off of things so that he can write his next novel. Only while he's trying to get to this island, he sees someone that looks exactly like his dead wife. And we go from there. Again, very atmospheric. I did enjoy the accent of the narrator. There's a few different accents that he has to do in this book, and I think he did a phenomenal job. I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3.5. Now for the books that I don't physically own, but that I read, We Don't Talk About Carol by Kristen. This is a thriller, and I enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. I loved this book for many reasons. One, because it is a thriller, but there's so much more being talked about in this book than just like the thrilling aspect of it. I find that when I read thrillers, I'm always trying to guess the ending of the book. And this one, I was so distracted by everything else that was going on. I wasn't trying to guess the ending of this book. So in this book, we are following Sydney, who is helping her mother and her sister clean out her grandmother's home because her grandmother has just passed. And while they are cleaning out the home, they discover a photo of her Aunt Carol, only she never knew about this Aunt Carol. She didn't even know she had an Aunt Carol. And when she tries to follow up and ask questions about who this woman is, everyone replies, "We don't talk about Carol." Sydney does not take that for an answer, and she decides to do some amateur sleuthing to figure out what happened to not only Aunt Carol, but the 5 other Black girls that also went missing around the same time in the 1960s in North Carolina. No one ever found out what happened to these girls, so Sydney has taken it upon herself to figure out what happened to them. I love the social commentary on what happens when Black children go missing. I also loved the glimpse that we got into Sydney's life. We're looking at a lot of familial dynamics, and I loved watching that with Sydney. Like, I loved watching her sister and how that dynamic was. I loved watching her relationship with her mother. I loved the flashback scenes that we got with the relationship of her father. It was just one big familial dynamic, and you know, there was drama within that. So I enjoyed reading about that. I also want to say that there are trigger warnings for infertility, and I think that that's something that really captivated me in this book. Sydney is trying to get pregnant with her husband, and so we follow them on their journey with that. So a lot of her commentary on going back and forth with like what it means to be a mom, and is Sydney actually ready for that? It was just like eye-opening, and there was a lot of reflecting moments with Sydney in that aspect that I really enjoyed reading. Anyway, all that to say, I was so wrapped up in all that stuff going on in the book that I forgot to try and guess what the heck happened to Carol. And when that was revealed, I was like, oh, didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming, and I loved the direction that the book went. It tied it all back around and said, remember, you're reading a thriller. So I enjoyed it. 4 stars. I'm definitely getting that book to add to my shelf. That wasn't a popcorn thriller. You have to be willing to sit with that for a little bit. It was kind of like a slow build up, but I enjoyed the ride. If you are looking for a popcorn thriller, I did read one of those this month, and that was The Tenant by Freida Mcfadden. I ended up giving that one 3 stars. If you are familiar with Freida Mcfadden's writing, this is a very Freida Mcfadden book. In that book, we are following Blake. Blake has just lost his job. He is newly engaged and has just purchased a brownstone. So as you can imagine, him losing his job is very inconvenient. In order for him to try and keep up with his mortgage payments, he has to take in a tenant. And once he finds a tenant to take in with him and his fiance, some sinister things start to happen, and we go from there. We're trying to figure out, is it all in Blake's head? Is it really the tenant doing these things? In true Freida Mcfadden fashion, you literally have no clue. You think you know. If you think you know, you're completely wrong. You don't know what's going on in this book until you get to the end of the book. I gave it three stars. There were a lot of things that couldn't actually happen in real life. A few far-fetched things took place, but it was a good time. It was a short time. It was a very Freida Mcfadden book. 3 stars. And the last book I have to discuss with you guys was an ARC. This releases October 7th. It is by Kristina Forest, and it's called Heartsick. I read this one on Kayante, which is my Kindle, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was so stinking cute. This is YA, and when I say YA, I truly mean like the target audience is probably 13 to 18, and 18 may be leaning more on the older side. So if you're not into YA, this is not new adults. This is really YA. But I enjoyed my time with it. It is about Margot and Isaac. They are two high school students. Margot is preparing for college and she's working an internship for a company that makes these pills. If you take the pills, it's supposed to cure you from your heartbreak. Isaac is still wondering what the heck he wants to do with his life. He knows that he really enjoys comic books and that he really enjoys video games and that he loves Margot. But unfortunately, Margot and Isaac have broken up. That is not a spoiler. It happens very early on in the book. This is a second chance romance. But what I loved about this book is the mystery element of it. Margot is trying to land an interview with the CEO of the company that she's interning for. While trying to get the interview, she overhears some things that she shouldn't be hearing. And so she finds out there's some funny business going on with these pills that the company is selling. And so Isaac and Margot spend a lot of time trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. And I enjoyed the mystery element of it. I think the target audience will as well. It's not just about the romance. I think the mystery really carries this book. So if you enjoy YA, or if you have a young adult in your life who you think would want to read something like that, I highly recommend this book. I thought it was so cute. You guys know I love Kristina Forest, so I will definitely be picking this book up to add to my shelf. Those are all the books that we were able to get through in the month of June. That was one physical book that I read, like physically, one book that I read on my Kindle, and then the rest were on audio. Audiobooks, again, have been saving me during the season of my life. I have been loving them. So if you've read any of these books, feel free to let me know what you thought about them, what star ratings you gave without any spoilers down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you made it to the end of today's video and you want to let me know that you stuck around, please leave this emoji. That always helps out my channel. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Let's start over. Book, The Two Sisters. I think that's a spoiler. Nix all of that.